Take a look at the stadium. It is sitting on one of the tightest, most boxed-in plots of land in London. It's smack in the middle of two major railway lines and a wall of residential homes. Yet the club is planning to do the impossible. They want to push capacity from 60,700 seats to just about 80,000. But if we look at this map, we can see that there isn't really space for that. So how are they going to add those almost 20,000 extra seats? And the simple answer to that is with a lot of money. Early estimates suggest that the project could cost in the region of around £500 million or more. That's more than it cost to build the stadium from scratch back in 2006. And that is because the original design had no plans for ever expanding. This is the story of the Emirates Stadium. Its past, its rise, and the huge future being talked about right now. Alright, imagine it's the 1990s. Arsenal is at Highbury. It's iconic, it's historic, but it's becoming a financial anchor. Football was changing. Safety rules after the Hillsborough tragedy meant stadiums had to get rid of standing terraces and move to all seats. When that happened, Highbury's capacity was slashed from over 57,000 to just under 40,000. That's a lot of lost seats and a lot of lost revenue. So despite Arsenal selling out every single game, they were still falling behind their rivals. Manchester United had expanded Old Trafford and saw their matchday income nearly double in just 3 years. And Arsenal, stuck in Highbury's narrow streets, just couldn't compete. The club explored everything. They tried to redevelop Highbury, but those plans immediately died when the East Stand was given a protected listed status, which meant that they couldn't touch it. One of the options considered was even buying Wembley Stadium. In the end, the only real option was to move. In 2000, the club bought a former industrial and waste disposal estate just down the road in Ashburton Grove. The move to build what would become the Emirates, at a cost of £390 million, was what manager Arsene Wenger called the biggest decision in Arsenal's history. Construction finished in 2006, and it was a revolution. It doubled their matchday income almost instantly. But as it turns out, in the Premier League, even a modern stadium has a shelf life. So what's changed? Why is 60,700 seats suddenly not enough? Well, it comes down to what we call a revenue ceiling. In the 2023-24 season, Arsenal made about £132 million from matchday income. Now that sounds like a lot, but because they maxed it out, there's just no more room to grow in the current setup. The season ticket waiting list has reportedly swelled to over 100,000 people, and that represents a huge pool of unmonetized demand. This expansion is also about keeping up. Rivals like Tottenham opened a shiny new ground that's bigger and brings in huge cash from things like the NFL. Real Madrid just spent over £1 billion renovating the Bernabeu, and they doubled their matchday revenue to over £200 million a year, also by transforming their stadium into a year-round entertainment venue. A successful expansion at the Emirates could bring in an estimated £40 million or more in additional revenue each year, and that mostly comes from the new premium hospitality or high-yield seats. But also driving this vision is the club's American owner, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, KSE. KSE's strategy, as seen with their SoFi Stadium in LA, is to treat sports venues as high-value, multi-purpose assets that generate income 365 days a year. And they've even added Otto Mali onto the board. He is the real estate expert who helped to build SoFi. Now, however, as I mentioned before, the major risk here isn't financial risk, it's logistical complexity. The scale of the project means that a temporary move to Wembley Stadium is seriously being considered to get the work done. Now, let's talk about that cost paradox. How does a renovation cost £500 million when the entire stadium was built for around £390 million in the 2000s? That's because the Emirates was built as a highly efficient, non-modular bowl. It wasn't designed to be expanded outwards. I mean, just look at the surrounding landscape. The efficiency of the original 2006 build has, ironically, created a massive hurdle for future expansion. But where there's a will, there's a way. Engineers are looking at 3 main options. Option 1 is to build up. This is the most dramatic choice because it would involve modifying the current roof structure to add a completely new tier. This is a monumental task that could take years because it requires dismantling and then rebuilding huge steel trusses that span the entire stadium. Option 2, dig down. This means that they lower the pitch so that they could add more seats at the bottom. But remember, this stadium is built over railway lines and old sewers. The digging needs to be incredibly precise so they don't accidentally drop an entire stadium on the Piccadilly line. And option 3 is to re-angle the seats. This means adjusting the steepness of the stands so that they can squeeze in more rows. And this is the smallest upgrade, but it could still push the capacity higher without a complete structural overhaul. Now, it's important to note that not every one of these options is going to push capacity to around 80,000. Some might get it up to about 70,000. But what we do know is that every one of these options will require upgrading ancillary systems. And these are basically the plumbing for the extra people that these seats will bring in. More fans mean you need better crowd management systems, more security, and better transport access, which is where that £500 million figure starts to make some sense. But this next bit is where it really gets challenging. If you thought the engineering was hard, wait till you hear about the politics around the stadium, because that's where the real minefield is at. First, there's the Wembley problem. The work is so disruptive that it would mean Arsenal would likely have to play home games at Wembley Stadium for a season or maybe even 2. The fact that they didn't apply to host the Euro 2028 matches is a huge hint that they're planning construction for around that time. Then there's the Islington Council. The council has stated that no formal discussions are underway, and experts predict that the approval process alone could take up to 5 years just to get permission to build. Aside from that, local authorities also tend to use these projects as leverage. And what that means is that there has to be a trade-off between public and private interests. Let me explain. Back in 2002, to get the Emirates built, the council made Arsenal sign a Section 106 agreement. And what this is basically a list of community must-haves that the club has to pay for in exchange for permission. Arsenal had to build a £60 million waste recycling facility just to get their stadium built. So this time around, it'll be the same thing. The council and even the mayor of London are already highlighting a list of obstacles. They are likely going to demand millions for transport upgrades, noise controls, and green spaces like the Quill Street project. And this is going to add millions more to the total cost. And don't forget the local residents. Groups like the Islington Stadium Communities Alliance, or ISCA, had fought the original move for years, worried that a giant corporation might take over their neighborhood. Local groups have historically opposed large-scale projects like this. Take Chelsea at Stamford Bridge as an example. That should give you an indication of just how strong local opposition can be. So, when you strip it all back, the real reason for the expansion isn't all about just getting more people through the turnstiles. It's a mix of 3 things which I've summarized. Number 1 is a financial imperative. They need that extra £40 million a year to compete with rival clubs. Second is an ownership strategy. KSE is treating the stadium as a high-yielding asset, moving beyond just football into a global entertainment model. And number 3 is a political trade-off. The expansion only happens if the club pays off their community tax to satisfy the local council. The Emirates was once the answer to Arsenal's future. Now it stands at yet another crossroads. It's a project that challenges engineering, tests the local community, and asks what responsibilities does a massive club have to the city that it calls home. So what do you think? Is the bigger stadium worth the £500 million price tag and the disruption? Tell me what you think down in the comments. And if you're into the engineering behind these mega stadium projects, you should definitely check out my video on Camp Nou in Barcelona, because I go crazy with the engineering details in that video. Links to that on screen and down below. And if you liked this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and hit subscribe to support the channel. And if I don't see you in the Barcelona video, I'll see you in another one. Till then, thanks for watching.